Hello, and thank you for your time. I'll be speaking to you about the amendment to the Public Assistance Large Project Threshold. During this presentation, I'll be going over some of the background, the rule overview, benefits, actions, and next steps in next slide, and we'll talk about the background really quickly. Section 422 of the Robert T. Stafford Act allows FEMA to implement simplified procedures for projects below an established monetary threshold. FEMA categorizes projects as small or large based on that monetary threshold, and each year FEMA adjusts this threshold, and we'll talk about that later. Simplified procedures allows FEMA to fund small projects based on cost estimates as opposed to actual cost accounting. This eliminates much of the administrative burden placed on projects at or below the monetary threshold, thereby expediting disaster recovery. We'll go on to the next slide. So in 1988, Congress established a threshold of $35,000. The monetary threshold is adjusted each year based on inflation and is used to reduce the administrative burden on small projects. At that time, 95% of public assistance projects were small and equaled 32% of PA funding. In 2013, Congress required FEMA to conduct an analysis of the threshold to determine whether an increase was appropriate and then review the threshold every 3 years thereafter. In 2014, FEMA completed their first analysis and adjusted the large project threshold from $67,500 to $120,000. In 2017, FEMA did not recommend a change after completing an analysis. And in 2020, a FEMA review showed 77% of projects were small and represented roughly 2% of PA funding, a drastic shift from the breakdown when the rule was enacted in 1988. In 2022, FEMA adjusted the large project threshold from $139,800 to $1 million. FEMA estimates 94% of projects would be small and would represent roughly 8% of PA funding, in line with the original breakdown. All right, next slide. So rule overview. So the new monetary threshold applies to all projects under major disasters and emergencies declared on or after August 3rd, 2022, and all projects that have not yet been obligated as of August 3rd, 2022 for disasters that were declared on or after March 13, 2020. So this includes COVID-19 declarations. The new monetary threshold will not apply to projects that were obligated prior to August 3rd, 2022, and this includes any versions processed on these projects on or after August 3rd. So just for a little bit of clarity, if you had a project that was obligated, the threshold that was applicable at the time of obligation is the threshold for the totality of that project. So even if amendments are submitted, it's still going to have that original threshold that it is applicable to. So we're going ahead to the next slide. So additional rule overview, FEMA has not changed any program requirements as a result of the increase in the monetary threshold. The forms and application process for small and large projects will remain the same. The documentation requirements for small or large projects will remain the same. And applicants must still comply with all applicable laws and regulations and policies on small projects. FEMA will continue to adjust the threshold annually to reflect changes in Department of Labor Consumer Price Index for Urban Consumers, the CPIU. And FEMA will continue a triennial review in accordance with Section 422 of the Robert T. Stafford Act as amended. So we'll go ahead to the next slide, which will talk briefly about the benefits. So some of the benefits of increasing the threshold. It should expedite access to recovery funding and increase the administrative efficiency of public assistance program for lower risk projects. Small projects can initially be awarded using an estimate, even if that work is already completed. And small projects do not have to be included in quarterly progress reports. And small projects have simplified closeout procedures once that work is completed. And so the goal again is that it helps in getting the right funding to our applicants, recipients, and communities more quickly. Going to the next slide. So actions. And the question that some people have been asking is, do I need to take action? Most applicants do not need to take any action as a result of this change. If your project has already been obligated, it is unaffected by this change. If your project is in process, it will be recategorized as small or large automatically. And if you have not yet submitted a project, it will be categorized as small or large when it is created. If you have a streamlined applications and grants portal, that you have not yet submitted, you may need to take action. By default, your streamlined project application will remain the same. If your streamlined project application is already submitted, you do not need to change it. If your project was a large project and is now a small project, you can change your application to use the easy schedule available for small projects. And the next slide will go over how to change your large project to small. So how to change to a Schedule EZ, go to your Streamline Project application, open Section 3, Cost and Work Status Information, update the estimated cost question, proceed through the section and submit, and Schedule EZ will automatically populate. And please note, all information and documentation in Schedules A, B, and C and the Large Project Work Survey D will be erased. Next slide. So if you need help or further assistance, we recommend, if you have one, contact your program delivery manager, your PDMG. If you do not have a PDMG assigned, you can contact the PA Grants Portal hotline by phone at 866-337-8448 or by email at FEMA-recovery-PA-grants@fema.dhs.gov. And the hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And next slide. And so this is just an overview of some of the steps that are currently underway. So currently, the rule is available for public comment through October 3rd, 2022, and comments will be considered for the next triennial update. Also, FEMA is developing a policy to implement a risk-based approach for small projects. And the policy's goal is to identify and address simplified documentation requirements, streamline processing, and ensure accurate and reasonable estimates. And at this time, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
If you are working with any documents used for a FEMA grant, you are responsible for safeguarding personally identifiable information, or PII. PII refers to anything that can be used to directly or indirectly identify an individual. Some examples of PII are names, addresses, social security numbers, and financial account information. This type of information must not be uploaded into Grants Portal or Grants Manager. To report corruption, waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, and/or misconduct, contact the Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General by phone at 1-800-323-8603 or via the website or mailing address listed on the screen now. Procurement requirements are among the most complicated parts of the PA grant process, and noncompliance can result in deobligation of funding. Please make sure that you are following FEMA's procurement guidance for recipients and subrecipients. Federal requirements for procurement and contracting are described in 2 CFR Part 200. The Procurement Disaster Assistance Team, or PDAT, offers some training and tools on their website, www.fema.gov/grants/procurement.